We then got Shotzi Blackheart versus the impressive Indy Hartwell, who hasn't really been seen. I don't know if she's been seen in NXT before. How long has she been signed there? She was like in the latest crop of signees.
I think I've seen her in one other TV match, I think. Because I remember making a joke about impressive pelvis Wesley when she came out. So yeah, I think this is like a second match. Yeah, it's one of the only bits of the show I didn't really like.
Why is that, Adam?
It's not because it's got Robert Stone in it. It just happens to be that the only two major issues I had with this show both involved Robert Stone, and the fact that like Robert Stone seems to be just trotted out there when you don't really know what to do. I get it. It's progress. Like, I mean, they actually did something. Like Robert Stone actually called. He had a plan. Yeah, they did something. It's just that I didn't really see this match. I thought it was a bit clumsy, a bit all over the place. I don't think Indy Hartwell's like there in terms of putting a match together just yet, and like I don't think Shotzi Blackheart is quite at the point where she's able to ring general an NXT match. They kept it pretty short, and then before they brought out Aliyah to interfere, and then Indy Hartwell got, I guess, an upset win. And it was just like kind of like, okay, sure, there it is. It's a continuation, I suppose. After getting run over by a tank, I don't know.
Yeah,
not wild on it, but at least it was quick.
It's more of the same bollocks that they were doing the last few weeks, which is they're positioning. I think they're positioning Robert Stone as pretty sympathetic, apart from obviously the interference here and helping Indy Hartwell win. Like, he did get his foot run over by a tank like that. I think that makes him quite sympathetic. I think being put in the bin by Rhea Ripley makes him quite sympathetic. Like, for the crime of merely asking someone if they want to join his brand, like not trying to force them, just asking someone if they want to, basically begging people and being a bit pathetic. And he keeps having all these ridiculous things happen to him. And the whole time, like, Phillips is standing up for Stone here and saying, like, he's injured. He was run over by a tank. He's just trying to further his business. And Beth is like, no, he's a joke. And it's like, it just feels mean. I feel really sorry for Robert Stone. Because clearly, and that's both sort of the character Robert Stone and Robert Strauss, the guy behind it, because he clearly had somewhere he was going when he had Chelsea Green. Even though NXT didn't really want to pull the trigger on that. And then as soon as she was taken away, he feels completely adrift. They really like him for some reason as like an on-screen presence. They love having segments with him.
The thing is, I like him. Yeah. I think he's a really good promo. Like the promo later in the show, which we'll get to, like it made no sense and was a load of nonsense, but he, like, at least he held up his end of it. It's just like, all you got to do is just have give him something that he wants and have him really work towards it. Because right now, I don't know what he wants. Like he's an incredibly reactionary character. Something happens to him, then he reacts to it. What does he want? He wants more people in the Robert Stone brand, right? What does that have to do with coming out and getting revenge on Shotzi Blackheart? It's just it just seems petty, and it's just kind of like, well, this happened last week, so I guess we'll do this, and now next week there's again no kind of reason to tune in because we're not sure. It's fine. Like it just feels like turning one match that could have happened into 3 segments over the course of 3 weeks, and then that match will happen. So the Aliyah Shotzi match will happen at some point. And then maybe from that we'll get Shotzi versus Robert Stone. And that will be the match they want to have, and we're just wasting time till we get there. It feels like bad improv. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like they have a general idea, maybe what they sort of want to be doing-ish, but they don't really have a plan, and they're just sort of about like yes-anding each other without really knowing what's going on. And it feels like one of those kind of worst improv scenes where basically it's circling around the same talking points because no one really knows how to make that kind of next narrative step.
Yes. We then saw Robert Stone, who was apologizing to Killian Dain backstage, saying, I'm sorry I spilt the coffee on you. That was actually to do with Shotzi Blackheart. And I'm really, really sorry, etc., etc. And then Aliyah comes in and says, hey, look at this picture that Dexter Loomis drew that I found. And it's got Keith Lee on it, and it's got a bunch of other pictures on it, but it's also got Robert Stone getting run over by the tank. Was Killian Dain even particularly in that picture? Did he?
He's in it, and like apparently, oh man, it's the worst bit of the episode for me by a long shot because it doesn't make sense, and it's just a ridiculous example of why they are overcomplicating and don't know what to do with Robert Stone. Or a lot of people, and just like so many different points, like A to B to C to D, and it didn't make any sense. So Robert Stone was apologizing for spilling coffee on Killian Dain, which was an accident, obviously, because he wasn't looking at the man. And then Aliyah found a picture which Dexter Lumis did, but it wasn't even like a proper picture. It was like a sketchbook. He'd done like a load of little, and then Killian Dain didn't like the way he looked in Dexter Lumis's drawing, so he said to Robert Stone, "Get me a match with Dexter Lumis, who I hate now, to make up for you accidentally spilling coffee." And why was Aliyah was showing Robert Stone, being just like, "Look at this painter." It was so contrived and just really annoying. Just because we just spoke about NXT being really simple and efficient and like very simple, kind of like point A, consequences in point B, whereas this is just a ludicrous load of nonsense to try and get Killian Dain to fight Dexter Lumis, which is a match they could have just announced, because it's fine. It's a wrestling promotion. You could just have matches.
Yeah, you could have also just had Killian Dain find a picture of himself that was a bit unflattering and be like, "Well, I know who did this." And that's the same. It's the same. It's basically the same setup, but you've removed two of the characters who are complicating the story needlessly. I just think it's so dumb. Like I hated this bit. I really like the Dexter Lumis drawing pictures thing. I'm not into particularly. Like I think it's difficult to explain what his character is because he doesn't talk beyond and what his motivations are. So I think it's quite a novel way of doing it. I don't think they've used it to good effect yet. And then this like Killian Dain being like, "Well, I hate the way I look in pictures." He didn't even ask if he could draw me. Like the guy in Titanic was at least asking if he could paint people like French girls. This is an outrage.
So the reason I think I disliked it as much as I did was because it really reminded me of like desperate bad booking meetings that we would have occasionally at WCPW. Like it was just like, okay, we've got these two indie guys, they're only available for this show, we've got to have a reason for them to fight. It's like, do and I was like, do we? We're a promotion, can't we just announce a cool match? And they're like, no, because we want to be like WWE and have storylines, so we've got to have a reason for these guys. It's like, oh, maybe like they bump into each other backstage, and maybe like, oh, he accidentally kicks his bag, or oh no, he's accidentally kind of like stumbled into his dressing room. And it's just like like the desperation to make every match have a story ends up making all the wrestlers involved look petty, and I found that really frustrating. Talking about WCPW, by the way, I talk a lot about WCPW on the upcoming WrestleTalk Extra video, where we look at WCPW Built to Destroy. So if you want to check that out, like a deep dive into my feelings on WCPW, you can find out through our Patreon, patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But yeah, it just reminded me of all the kind of head in my hands moments where it'd be just like, why can't we just announce a match? Why do we have to make Killian Dain look this petty? Like Killian Dain almost came out of it looking the worst, because it's like, why would he care about a little scribble he found about Dexter Lumis? Maybe he wants to...
the end goal is that they have the match, Dexter Lumis beats Killian Dain and then draws the most beautiful moving picture of him while he's unconscious in the ring after being locked in his submission. That's the end of it. That's like, and then the rest of NXT is performed in front of a beautiful portrait of Killian Dain hanging above a fireplace or whatever. Like I don't know where it goes. I don't know what the point is. It doesn't add anything to the match between the two of them. It doesn't give anyone else extra motivation. It's just going to make it it just makes Mauro, Tom, and Beth's life more difficult.
Yeah,
because they have to try to work out how to get over this bull.
without sacrificing their own credibility. Now you swore.
I know. Well, I did it because I'm going to have one if you've had one. So that's it. Like, I won't be outdone.